Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show, to the Runaway show, the Runaway train. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have felt this way, and I don't know. It kind of came to me in an interesting way last night, so I figured I'd talk about it today. And sometimes life can feel like a runaway train, right? Sometimes our mind feels like a runaway train. Like if we're not in control of our thinking, and which most of us aren't, and even those that are, we're not in control of it all the time. We can get caught up into things and have them pull us. And that's what it's like when we lean into the drama of a situation. It actually, like, the energy of it pulls us in, and we're not really in control of what we're doing until we disconnect. That's why usually in most situations, the first thing I do is tell people, just stop, disconnect, come back to center, be present. Just disconnect from whatever's going on, because as long as you're being pulled by that, you're not in control of what you're thinking, how you're thinking it. And it'll sound real because it's happening in your head, but it's all being influenced by the pull of the energy of the situation that has drawn you in. Right. So it's like that runaway train. And I was thinking about that. I kind of tuned in and I was thinking about the feeling of it, whether it's your mind racing or, like I said, sometimes people actually live their lives like this. You can feel the frustration with people when they're just kind of like, if they stop really for a moment and kind of just tune into what's happening to their life, it's a version or a blend of kind of like hopelessness and being the observer. Like you're in your life, right? So if you just stop for a minute, if you're not living consciously, you can get into this space of the observer, where you're kind of like, wow, I'm just going with life. Like whatever happens in my life, it pulls me along with it. If I get a raise, I feel happy. But I don't feel like getting a raise is within my control per se. So you don't feel like you're in control of it, but then if it happens, you feel good. And then if you get in trouble at work, or if somebody doesn't like something that you said, then you feel bad. And it's like there's a flow to life, and it kind of feels like you're just, just kind of going down a river and bouncing off the sides and hitting rocks, and you're just going with it, and you don't know where you're going, you don't know how you're going to get there, what it's going to look like. It's kind of completely out of control. So there's this hopelessness that goes along with living like that, when you're you don't feel like you're in control of any aspect of it, really. You're just doing, you get up and go to work because you're supposed to. You don't really have a clear understanding even why. I have to. Well, I have to. Well, then you go grocery shopping. Why? Well, because you have to. And you get gas. Why? Because you have to. And you take the kids to their soccer game. Why? Because you have to. It's like everything's just pulling you. Like you're not in control of any of it, And that you have a hopelessness. There's a helpless feeling that goes along when you're living like that, you know. So, and again, like I said, that's one way to experience it, when you're just being pulled through life by whatever's happening. You know, like a lot of those things, you if you slow down there, you can actually shift your perspective on them a little bit, and you can actually be more in control of them and feel like you're more in control, because it's not what we do, it's how and why we do it. So if we're just being pulled along just randomly and we think we have no control over it, it's this helpless feeling, and it's not a good way to go through life. But if we slow down and like look at some of the things that I just said, and it's like, well, why are you going to work? Well, because I want to go to work. I'm choosing to go to work because it provides a life for me that I want. Like, you don't have to go to work. You're choosing to go to work, because if you go to work, then you get a paycheck. And if you get a paycheck, then you can pay for the roof over your head and food and things like that. Like, so it's a good choice. But it is a choice, you know. And when you start looking at life like when you start consciously choosing to do the things that you're doing in your life for the right reasons, then it puts you more in the driver's seat of what you're doing. And if there are adjustments that you can make, you can consciously choose those adjustments, because you're looking at it clearly. If you think, oh, I have to go to work, I just have to go to work, I have to go to work, one, you feel like a victim of it. You're not in control of your actions, and there's that hopelessness feeling. But if you shift your perspective and you say, no, I'm choosing to go to work because it helps provide the life that I want to live. Well, now all of a sudden you're in control. You're choosing it. It's a completely different energy. It's a completely different feel. And your mind actually processes things differently. So what happens is, you know, this isn't 100%, but you're much more likely to say, if you have clarity like that and you approach life like that, if you don't like your job, you're much more likely to say, okay, why am I going to this job? I don't like it. So why? Well, because it provides a paycheck for me to do things. Oh, okay. So I like the paycheck, but I don't like the job. Maybe I should try to find another way to make money that I actually enjoy more. And then I can still have the money. I'll just be doing different things to get it. Like, that's a logical conclusion when you feel that you're in control of your own life. When you don't feel like you're in control of your own life, your mind doesn't even go down those directions, because you're not in control. You're just doing it because you have to. So then somebody comes in and says, how's work? Oh, I hate my job. Why don't you go find another job? Oh I can't just go find another job. I mean, don't you think I would if I could? Like, you rationalize why you're stuck, you know, and you're not stuck. You can go find other jobs. People, oh my God, well, it'd take me 10 years. So what? Like, you're you're going to be somewhere 10 years from now. Would you like to be still doing the same job? I don't care if you're my age, 55. I'm 55. If I didn't like what I was doing and it was going to take me 10 years to get somewhere, well, then at least I'll be somewhere that I like when I'm 65. I don't want to be somewhere that I don't like when I'm 65. Fortunately, that's not my case right now. But I did that years ago. You know, I got sober when I was 35. I started my business when I was in my 40s. You know, so I don't know, what, 43 or something. Maybe I started my business. We'll ballpark it. So, you know, I'm 43. Like, what am I doing? Starting a new business. Well, why not? Like, look at where I am at 55. Look at where I was at 48. I had my own business. I had my own business when I was 45, if I started at 42 or 43. So, well, yeah. I had my business around 43 if I started it at 42. But anyway, like, so you're going to be somewhere. Why not like consciously choose where you're going? Oh, I don't know if it's going to work out. Well, you don't know that it's not. Like, so what? So my point is it's a very like, if we slow down and stuff and just tune into our lives, it's a freaky feeling, man. It's a freaky feeling. It's like I was saying, it's this observer mixed with hopelessness when we're not in control of our life, or helplessness. And it's weird. It's because it's, partially because it's two feelings at once, kind of. Like, the way once I really tuned into the energy of this, what I started doing was having like flashes of when I experienced it in extreme situations, and then in not so extreme situations. And I found the similarity to it. So like, if you picture yourself on a runaway train, which is specifically why I named this episode, the runaway train feeling. Like, what would it feel like? What is your experience like when you're on a runaway train? If you were on a runaway train, it would be like, the dynamics of it is you're going really fast, right, on a runaway train, and you have no control over where it's going. That's the basic dynamic of it. So it produces a very specific feeling being in a scenario like that. And that's not the only scenario where you can get that feeling. Like, I want to draw that feeling back into how we can feel this way about our life. But it's very surreal, because like, I've experienced stuff like this. I was in a car doing 114 miles an hour trying to get to 115 because I was young and stupid. And I hit a little wave in the road. I had been down this road so many times before, and I never even felt it because it was just so minimal. But going at 114, when I went over that little bump, that little wave in the road, it was enough for air to get up underneath the car, and I took off like I was in an airplane, and I'm flying through the air. And the road starts bending. My car's going towards the side of the road, and I'm going. It was so surreal. I was just like, everything slowed down, and I was like, wow, my tires aren't on the ground, and there's nothing I can do here. Like, I'm a missile going through the air at 114. And I have no control over where I land or what happens next. And I remember I just started cutting the wheel fairly slowly, because like I said, everything had slowed down. And I was cutting the wheel to the left, and then I cut it to the right a little. And I was cutting it, and I was thinking, I'm like, this, my tires aren't on the ground. So turning the steering wheel back and forth, it's not going to do anything. But I was like, yeah, but I still want to do it, because I don't want to sit here and do nothing. Like, I kind of figured I was about to die. So I'm like, I don't want to just do nothing. So even though this isn't going to affect anything, I'm going to do it anyway, to kind of give myself the feeling that I'm trying something. I'm attempting to not die, because I didn't want to just sit there and wait. So I was like, well, I'll just do this, even though it's not going to help. And, just to give myself the feeling of some level of control or something, that I'm at least attempting something, even though it's not going to work, And then, I won't get too into what happened next, but I don't want to leave you hanging. So there was a sign on the side of the road, and the car hit that sign, and the sign smashed through the window right next to my head, the driver's side window, and shattered it. And then and it kicked the car around, and then the same sign smashed the rear windshield, the rear window, and it sent me into off the road, and I hit this big cement thing. To this day, I don't know what the heck that is. I'd be curious to find out what it is. But there was this big cement thing in the road, and it was across the street from the hospital in the town that I lived at. And I slammed into that, and it just like took me off into a flat spin on the grass that was next to it. Fortunately. So I just ended up spinning until the car finally stopped. And I was like, whoa, what the heck? And I'm looking, and I was fine. Like, there wasn't a scratch on me. Busted glass everywhere, but I was fine. So I was like, whoa, caught my breath. I wonder if the car would start. Like, I had been drinking, so I knew I was going to be in trouble. So I tried starting the car, and it started up. And I was like, oh my God. So I took off and went and, did whatever I did. But yeah, so that's the end of that story. But my point was, like, it was so surreal, time slowed down, and I was like the observer of what was going on. But yet there was also this helplessness that was going like, well, there's nothing you can do, and that, my point is like, that's the feeling of being on a runaway train. You're kind of going, like, the part, I guess, to keep in mind is of a runaway train is you're going fast, like danger is imminent, like that there's, that something bad's probably going to happen if you're going at a high rate of speed and you have no control of where you're going. Like, that doesn't usually end well. Right. Like, I was very fortunate that it ended the way that it ended for me. It just wasn't my time, obviously. And, same thing when I fell off a 7-story building in Worcester doing steel work. It's like, everything slowed down, and I was like, oh, wow, this is how I'm going to die. And, and then I found a little beam coming off a few floors down. So I waited and threw my arm out and caught myself. But during that time, before I saw that beam, it's this, everything slows down, and it's very surreal. And you're like, wow, I'm falling to my death, and there's nothing I can do. Wow. It's a very surreal experience. Same thing when I got electrocuted. I almost died getting electrocuted. I had 440 volts going through me. I don't know how many amps, but I was starting to go unconscious, and I was like, oh, wow. This is how I was going to die. And it was very surreal. And I was getting shocked by a welding machine, and I was trying to pull backwards, and it was on wheels, and I fell backwards onto my butt, and because I was squatting down, and the machine rolled with me. So now I'm on my butt, and I'm like, okay, well, now I'm screwed, like, that was my one move to try to separate myself from what was shocking me. And instead of me breaking away from it, it rolled with me. So now I'm dead, So, and it's a very surreal, like, wow, this is what's happening. That's the observer, and I have no control over it. Huh. And, it's that, and there's this feeling of helplessness, and sometimes we can get caught up in that helplessness, so sometimes we drop into acceptance. I think a lot of times we drop into acceptance, and that's actually probably worse than the helplessness. Because, like, if we feel helpless, we might look for something, like when I was falling off the building, I was like, oh wow, I kind of was in a place of acceptance, but I was like, is there anything that can stop this? And I saw that beam coming off, and I was like, oh wow. The welding machine, I don't know how I got disconnected from it. I was just going unconscious, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know if there was a break in the current or if God twanged me in the forehead and knocked me off of it because it wasn't my time. I don't know. But it just stopped. And I jumped up and ran back, and my heart was, because it was going right through my arms, the electricity. So it was going right through my heart, and it was beating like really freaking fast. So I jumped up and got a little distance between me and the machine, and I was like, wow. Like, so I don't know how I ended up getting off that, but when I saw the beam coming off when I was falling, I threw my arm out, and it's like, okay. But it's not, these are just examples, some of the examples of some of the things that I experienced where I felt this way. There was actually quite a few more. It was I've said I lived kind of a crazy life when I was younger. This is part of it. So I kind of got used to this feeling. And last night when I tuned into it, I'm like, oh my God, I know this feeling. And then I started flashing to, people, including myself, if we get caught up in something, and how that mind it's similar with the mind. A lot of times we just don't slow down enough. We're so caught up into it, it's just going. But if we have the ability just to stop for a moment and become the observer, we would notice that it actually feels very similar to that. It's like there's something that's pulling us really fast, and we don't have control over what's pulling us. So it's that observer and helpless, or that observer and acceptance space that we kind of drop into. And it's really weird. So it's, we need to disconnect. We need to get off that runaway train. And the first thing is just to stop and recenter. Just stop and recenter. Breathe, and don't get caught up in the lie of the energy that's pulling you. The lie of the energy that's pulling you is telling you that you need to deal with this now. This is a really big deal. Yes, but because you're going, oh, I want to slow down, and that energy is just going, no, like, this is too important. You need to deal with this now. This is a huge deal. There's no way to look at this where you can calm down. Like, this requires crazy manic energy, and that's all lies. Like, we just have to disconnect from it. That's why I make blanket statements. I don't get into an argument with that energy, because I'll lose. It's too powerful. It's got control of me. It's pulling me. I have to stop. Yeah, but no, you can't stop. This is no, stop. I just have to stop. I just have to stop. I just have to stop. And it gets easier and easier the more often you do it. And you can disconnect from that energy more. And then you believe those lies that you have to go with it less and less. And it puts you more in control of yourself. Then you can deal with that. So that's like the mind racing stuff. We just have to stop. Because we actually do have control over that. We do have control over our mind, so we can stop that. Now, life situations, as I said, I think from what I'm seeing now, this plays out in life in two ways: the mind racing, or us just going randomly with life. So the mind racing I just talked about, we're in control of our mind, so we can stop that. I know it's not easy sometimes, but that's basically the solution. Step one, dealing with it after, from a calmer place. That's what you do next. And, who knows what that looks like. I mean, sometimes you can think clearly once you stop. Sometimes you can talk to friends. You can talk to your life coach, whatever. There's different ways once you stop, but you have to stop first. Nothing good happens when you're being pulled by something that you're not in control of. So you have to stop it. Then you're back in control. You can make conscious choices. When your life feels like that, when you live in your life and it's like we don't have control over life, the flow of life, right? So life is going to continue going. It's going, there's a flow to it, and things are going to happen that are outside of our control. So we don't have control over what life brings us. What we do have control, actually, we do have control over a lot more than we realize. But for all intents and purposes, we don't have control over what life brings to us. What we have control over is how we deal with it, how we adjust the sails, what conscious choices we make to deal with what life is bringing to us. Once we get better at interacting with life in a more conscious way, adjusting our sails, we actually find out, because like I said, most people live their life and they're like, well, I have to go to work. I don't have a choice. It's like, yeah, you do. You do have a choice, and you can work towards changing your future. No, it might not happen tomorrow, but that's what people use to stay stuck, which I don't know. I mean, I understand it. It's just, it confuses me a little bit how rampant that is. How rampant people just rationalize their life that they don't like. How easy it is for them to just shove stuff away. Because I'm a life coach, so I work with people on a regular basis to change their lives. And people usually find me by listening to my podcast. So they have an idea of how I think and how I speak and my outlook on things, which is really helpful. Because then when people come to me and I say, okay, you need to do this, usually they start doing it because they want to change their lives and they're ready to take action. But the people who I don't work with, that I see that are just sitting there, and they go, oh, I hate my job. And go, why don't you try looking for something different? Oh, well, it's not that easy. Like, that's why you're staying stuck. That's your reasoning. Like, we're talking about your life here. We're talking about, possibly 100 years on this planet. And you're going to spend the most precious thing you have doing something that you hate on a daily basis. And your reasoning is it's not that simple. It might not be easy. So learning how to walk wasn't easy. You did it. Learning how to speak wasn't easy. You did it. Is it easy going to a job that you hate every day for 40 or 50 years? That's easy? Of course not. That's hard and miserable. Why don't you take a chance of doing something that you actually do want to do? Worst case scenario, we'll gladly refund your misery. You can go right back to doing what you hate. Hell, you don't even have to leave doing what you hate. You don't even have to risk it. You can keep doing what you hate as you try to find something else. See that? No risk. You don't have to worry about losing this thing that you hate. It'll still be there. You can go hate it every day, just like you are now, and go look for something else. Instead of watching 6 hours of television, you can watch 4 hours of television every day and spend 2 hours actually looking for something, putting effort into changing your life. Be conscious with your life. Your life is a gift. It's a gift. Like I'm not particularly scared of dying. I think I've said I'm not scared of dying. I mean, I think there's a natural fear there. Like, it's like, whoa. Like, I was watching a movie recently where I kind of tuned in, and I was like, it was like this person was going to die, and I kind of tuned in, and I'm like, wow, how would I feel if I was in that position? That, like, I knew I was going to die and I was about to die, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be weird. If I'm being honest with myself, I don't have a general fear of dying, but like, if I was right at it, there would be some apprehension. I'd be like, huh? Like, wait a minute now. Like, what? It'd be a little bit off-putting, if I'm honest with myself. I think I could probably center myself back down, but time will tell. So it's this, I forgot where the heck I was going. what brought me here? Your life. So, your life is very precious. So I don't have a particularly huge fear of dying, but like what gives me the chills, really, like if I think about it, and I don't feel like it's because I'm scared of it, because I'm doing what I need to do to prevent it from happening. And I literally have prevented it from happening up until this point and believe I will continue to do so. So I don't think it's fear, but just the idea of it, I don't like, there's just certain things like I don't like tomatoes. So it's all that larvaly jelly stuff inside. Like I don't like it. It's just, it's gross to me. So I'm just kind of like, ew. It's kind of like that. It's just one of those things that you just like, I'm not scared of it. I don't like the thought of it or the feeling of it. And what that is thinking about like coming to death, coming to the point where I'm going to die, and kind of looking back on how I spent my life and going, oh man, I didn't really pursue anything I wanted to, or I didn't try to live the life that I wanted to. I just kind of got dragged around by it. Whatever happened in my life, I just went with that as if I needed to. I was like, like there's no life to that. To me, the word life and living, it's they're the same thing. Like you have to live your life. It's not, to me, it's not okay to just make it through. Well, I was here for a while. I experienced some stuff and I guess I'll die now. Like that to me is such a waste of a life. That gives me the willies, thinking that I'm going to be on my deathbed, looking back over my life. And if I thought things like that or similar to that about my life, that would freak me out. I'd be like, oh my God, I missed it. Like, oh, what was I thinking? Like, what was I thinking? Like, I could have done anything and I didn't. What was I like? I missed it. Like that freaks me out. That I'm like, oh man, I'm never going to experience that. I'll do whatever I need to make sure I don't experience that. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to feel the same way that I feel. It doesn't have to give you the willies. But if you think about it and you're like, yeah, that would kind of suck. I don't think I would like that feeling. Just going, well, I did what I was told. And then now I'm going to die. Like that should, I don't think it's normal for that to be okay. It ain't okay for me, so maybe that's why I don't think it's normal. I mean, I guess really, I believe that there's many paths for many people. So I'm sure that there are some people out there that that's okay with. So let's be fair. If you feel like that and that's okay with you, then maybe you're on the right path. And I'm not saying that to be condescending. I mean it. Like if you really tune into that, really just slow down and disconnect from the mental chatter and just feel. And if you can picture yourself lying on your deathbed going, whatever, I just kind of walked through things. It was all right. I'm good. I think I'll go now. Like if that type of mentality feels okay to you, then fine. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, if it works, if it suits you, why not? Right? I'm not here to judge. And I know that not everybody is like me. I just think that there's lots of people out there that are living as if they don't have control or over their life, or as if that's okay, but it's actually not okay with them. And that's when, like, if it's okay with you, then fine. You're not going to have the regret when you get there because it's okay. So where would the regret come from? But if you tune into that thought and it's not okay with you, then now's the time to do something. I don't care if you're 5 or if you're 85. Now is the time. Do something. Obviously, what you're going to do if you're 5 or 15 or 25 looks a lot different than what you would do if you're 85. But whatever age you're at, do whatever it takes to take advantage of this life. Do not just act like you're on a runaway train that you're not on. You are in control of it. Most of what I see, like, I have very, 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 very little drama in my life. Like, there's some, but it's extremely minute. Right. And then I look at, like, other people's lives and what they talk about and what their experiences are. And I'm like, oh my God, like, no wonder why you're, like, all overwhelmed and getting knocked all over the place. Like, I mean, because I lived like that before, so I know what it's like. I haven't lived like that for 20 years, so it's much nicer over here. But, like, no wonder why people feel overwhelmed. Like the levels of anxiety and stress. Like, people think that they have anxiety or they have stress, like it's thrust externally upon them, or there's something wrong with them, that, like, they caught anxiety or they tripped and fell and landed in a puddle of stress. Like, it's not how it happens. Like, it's because you're not interacting with life correctly. Life doesn't induce stress. Life is fine. It always has been. It's the way we're interacting with life that's the problem. It's the way we're processing life. It's the way we're looking at life that's the problem. Because I'm in life and I have very, very, very minimal stress and minimal anxiety and minimal drama in my life. But yet, people who are listening that are stressed out have maximum anxiety and stress in their lives. Well, it can't be life then. Just that little scientific experiment proves that it's not life, because if it was life, I would be feeling it too. But I interact with life differently than somebody that's stressed out all the time. So it's the way I interact with life that's the difference. It's not anything else. And I mean, if we want to talk problems, I was an alcoholic for 20 years, homeless, body shutting down. Like, oh, and you have a job you don't like? You poor thing. Yeah, I had those too. And a son 1,400 miles away. Like, I've had my problems. So it's not the problems. The problems can make it harder. But if we learn to work through our problems and interact with life less, we have less problems. I'm telling you, most of the problems that people have in their life they don't need to have them in their life. It's because they're looking at life inappropriately and ineffectively. Like, like, somebody will be like, oh, somebody said I was a bad worker at work, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And they got all the, like, oh my God, like, that's what you put yourself through if somebody says something that you disagree with. Wow. Like, no wonder why you're so stressed out. Like, you think nobody has given me a negative comment on my podcast and said I should do everything differently and I'm an idiot? Of course I've heard that. But I don't believe it. I don't take it on like as part of me. It doesn't affect my life. I'm not walking around, kicking a dog and screaming and stuff because somebody said something unkind about me. Who cares? And that's just one small example. Like, quite honestly, these things. Oh, I lent somebody $100 and they won't pay me back. Well, don't. And now I can't pay my bills. I have an idea. Don't loan money that puts your financial situation at risk. Somebody says, hey, can I borrow $100? You look at your finances and go, can I pay my bills even if I don't get that $100 back? No, I can't. I would be screwed. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to put my future and my happiness in somebody else's hands that's going through a difficult time right now. I'm not capable of helping them without possibly hurting me. So I'm not going to help them. They're going to have to help themselves in a different way. I could afford 50. I'll give them 50. Then I can still pay my bills. Oh, okay. But just stay in control of your life and your happiness. We run around handing our happiness over to everybody else, and then they don't handle it appropriately, and we get all upset, and it causes all this drama. Don't give your time and your energy, which energy is usually time or money, don't give that out irresponsibly. It is your responsibility to take care of your energy. And that includes your time, your emotions, your money, and anything else that causes the controversy in your life. If we can't hand the power of how we feel inside and how our life goes over to other people and then expect it to go well. Our life is our responsibility. We get the value of it. We have to take care of it. So make your decisions appropriately and you won't be experiencing all this drama. So I think if you find yourself feeling like you're on a runaway train in your mind, if life feels that way to you, slow down and start looking at things differently. Reach out if you need some help. But it's if it's mental, stop first and then figure it out. If your life feels like that, stop and then start looking at different possibilities in different ways. Think outside the box. Because like if your life feels like a runaway train that you're just on for the ride, like then you have to think differently. One of my favorite quotes I've said a million times is Einstein. You can't fix a problem with the consciousness that created it. So like you might have to read a book. You might have to listen to a podcast. You might have to reach out to a life coach. You might have to talk to friends. You have to look for information to be able to see things in a different way. The way you look at life is just what you've learned up until this point. That's all. It's not reality. It's not truth. It's not the only way. It's just what you've been exposed to up until this point. Like, there's that book, what was it, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People or something, that like they found that successful people think differently than people who aren't successful. Duh, like, oh, it's not luck. No, it's not. It's how they interact with life. It's how their brain thinks. So like most people see a problem, they see an opportunity. That's, like it's that type of stuff. So we have to break out of our conditioning that is telling us, oh, well, it's just what I have to do. This is life. No, it's not. It's your responsibility. And you have a lot more control over it than you realize. So start adjusting those sails. Start leaning in towards doing what you want to. I don't know where to start. Okay, then start researching. And don't rule things out just because you've never thought of them before. I hear that all the time. People think I'm so lucky. Which is comical because I've designed my life consciously to look exactly how it looks. I made conscious choices to get here. None of this is random. Now, a lot of what supported me is random, but why did I come across those things? It was because I was working towards something. I started my business. I started doing a podcast. I saw an email on Insight Timer that or something on Insight Timer that there was more than just meditations, and I took the action to email them and say, hey, can I upload my podcast to your platform? Like, I did that. That wasn't luck, right? Now, I didn't know that it was going to turn into something. I didn't know that it was going to give me more exposure and it was going to help my business. I didn't know that. So I didn't wait until I knew what was going to work and that everything was I was going to be able to support myself and my son with this business. And then I went and did it. That's not life. You start working towards something. Nobody knows if it's going to work or not. You just have to start working at it. And eventually something falls into place. I'm doing the same thing with this land project over here, Mountain Ridge Sanctuary. It's like, I just got news today that there might be a problem with the piece of land that I was planning on buying. Maybe not. I don't know. But like, I'll tell you one thing. If this land doesn't fall into place, then what I'm going to do is find another piece of land. And I'll buy that one. And if that one falls through, guess what I'm going to do? I'll go find another piece. No idea what's going to work out. No idea. But I know I'm going to do this somehow. Why? Because I want to. I'm putting my energy towards it. And it's not ridiculous. It's not like I'm asking to be, I want to start. The Celtics are in the NBA Finals right now. It's not like I'm saying I want to start for the Celtics in the NBA Finals this year. That's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. But getting some land will, and selling it to people, like-minded, nature-oriented people, creating a nice, peaceful community over here in the Dominican Republic, surrounded by nature. Love it, man. That's happening. All right, peeps. So go out there, live your life. It ain't over yet. You're still listening to this. So, all right. Thanks for listening. Peace.